about the opportunity to application providers and obviously ISVs in terms of the public cloud, in terms of how the marketplace has changed, in terms of perceptions of customers and those looking to migrate to Azure, and also looking at really the opportunity to you guys from how you develop your applications. It's not just about migrating to Azure, but it's also that innovation piece as well. And as the market grows and the market changes, consumers are basically looking at how they can incorporate things like AI and expecting those elements as part of their application experience when they choose whether it's a SaaS provider or a PaaS provider. So in terms of the cloud opportunity itself, I just thought I'd start right at the beginning just to give some insight around the opportunity out there for you guys, the addressable market, if you like. As I said, this is a snapshot of 2020. This is where we are now. And these are essentially comparisons to 2019. And as you can see, there's significant growth within the cloud sector. But really, the majority of that growth is within the four big players with regards to the public cloud. So yeah, Amazon, AWS, Microsoft, Google, and Alibaba. Again, not going to labor this too much. Everyone knows, everyone on this call will know the shift in mindset towards cloud and the opportunity that cloud brings. But really, the key elements here is that spending has increased again by 33% from this time last year up to 30 billion. And IaaS and PaaS services accounts for the bulk of that market, and again grew by another third. So the really key thing here is that acceleration of cloud adoption, and customers are well and truly on board with cloud transformation. And the key thing as well is not just looking at it from an addressable market perspective in terms of your customer bases, but also looking at your competitors and how they are leveraging the benefits of the cloud to accelerate their business. So looking at their cost models, looking at how they can optimize performance, cost, and security of their application. That credibility piece that we'll talk about further in this session around Azure and how they can leverage Microsoft's promotion of Azure as a way of gaining new customers, but additionally being able to really spur on your existing customer base and show that you're a progressive organization that are meeting the trends that are out there at the moment. So in terms of what that means for you, as I said, I've highlighted some of those elements. It's only going to continue. So these are a few facts and figures around what the cloud environment or the cloud marketplace is going to look like in the future. By 2020, by the end of this year, 75% of enterprises will be using public cloud, and that's from a migration perspective. But what's really important is that more than 50% by 2023 will be consuming public cloud platform as their main low risk option to basically manage the complexity of their workloads and aligning their cost to revenue. It's much easier to understand their cost implications to revenue when you have a forecasted amount per month rather than every 3 years you have to pay for a capex cost in terms of infrastructure. And by 2024, 90% of the global top organizations will have that multi-cloud strategy. So again, it's not just about migration. You want to be part of that discussion as an ISV. So when one of your customers or any opportunities that come your way, they're going to want to know how you fit into their cloud migration strategy. And by offering that cloud version of your application or that public cloud version of your application, you're able to be part of that conversation from the offset. The other side of things is the innovation piece. So Andy, you made a good point at the very beginning in the introductions around AI. A lot of customers are going to be expecting AI-enabled applications and really being able to use operational real-time data from third parties such as yourselves to be able to drive continuous improvement. So key facts around there is 35% of production apps will likely to be cloud native first and foremost. So utilizing things like microservices and containers, and then 40% of those will incorporate cloud deployments for reducing sort of bandwidth bottlenecks and latency. and being able to process more data for better decision making and decision support in real time. So they're really looking to not only use applications that serve a particular purpose, but use applications that really help them to drive decision making and understanding where they can continuously improve their operational processes. And again, that's a huge opportunity for applications and ISVs to obviously take a march over the marketplace in terms of being ahead of their competitors. But further to that, it really levels the playing field. There are a few application markets out there at the moment where there has been, huge organizations that have sort of a monopoly within those segments due to their legacy within that and their customer base. This opens the door slightly for those newer applications or those that thought, that market is shut off for me. It's somewhere we want to go that we feel we can add value in, but it's shut off because we can't compete. It opens the door for ISVs and those application providers for those particular markets, because there is something else that these other larger organizations haven't particularly necessarily picked up yet, but also a differentiator to say we can enter this market. We've got an AI enabled application that's cloud native, and we know there's a huge addressable market here for this particular application. So really, this slide is just about the opportunity for you. So migrating is one thing, but really innovating further in something like Azure for AI enablement is a real key thing, because as it says there, 60% of people will be looking at that as a key factor as a decision-making process for particular applications. In terms of Azure itself, how does this look for Azure? So obviously, it's quite obvious that Azure is significantly growing. The public cloud is significantly growing. There's greater than 90,000 new Azure customer subscriptions per month. 1.5 million new databases, 500 million users in Active Directory, 1.5 trillion messages through IoT. 80% of the Fortune 500 use Microsoft Cloud. And then there's 777 trillion storage transactions per day. So Azure is growing massively. Obviously, from that slide 9, AWS has had a head start. They've got more of the marketplace, but that's purely because they started 5 years before Microsoft did with launching Azure, and Azure is catching all the time. So it was up to 18% of the market share this year from 12% last year, and it's only a matter of time before they catch and exceed AWS. And obviously Microsoft would have a more of a legacy scenario there, where they've got a lot of an installed base that AWS didn't have, that they need to manage that relationship well, and obviously manage that transition to Azure. Key thing with Azure is has significant investment and significant growth. And the key things that we'll also go through later on in this session is Microsoft's commitment to ISVs. So I'll run through the launch and sell, but James from Microsoft will also run through the commitment from Microsoft to really helping application providers and ISVs to really accelerate within Azure and actually build businesses of the future, but also accelerate their growth. So there's a lot of commitment there to adopting ISVs. So ultimately, what does this mean for you? There is the opportunity to essentially fulfill that appetite in the market. So as we said, making sure applications are cloud native as part of a customer's or prospect's cloud strategy, part of their migration strategy, and making sure those are AI enabled. And those actual two elements that ISVs and application providers can really have a part in and really play as part of a customer's strategy actually is forecast to be 3 times the value of the public cloud alone. So having that insight and that ability to play a key part in the trajectory of your customers and their cloud journey is huge for you. So it could be up to 52 billion by 2023 in terms of you guys helping the cloud journey of your customers through your application and how you deliver that application. Key obviously hotspots within the rest of the world: 29 billion in North America, 7.2 billion APAC, 13 in Europe, and 3 in the rest of the world. But again, the beauty of the public cloud and some of the things that Sean will run through is that it's really easy to regionalize across the globe your application delivery. So being able to deploy infrastructure as code so that you can set up in the North American region, as well as the APAC region. So I think we've got a couple of people that are in Australia at the moment, being able to deploy infrastructure as code so the customers can either deploy your application on their own Azure environment or in a single or multi-tenancy environment that you provide for them. But the key thing is in a localized regional way that still responds to the same governance procedures as your European or US operation is a real key thing there. And then in terms of, I think we've got a few people on the call that fall into these key industries, but 50% of cloud driven adoption will come through banking and finance applications, 57% healthcare, insurance and retail are key sectors that will really help drive, and ISVs have a key part to play in driving that cloud adoption. So in terms of what does this mean? The reality is that to stay competitive, you do need a SaaS option. So we're already seeing that those, and that's from Cloud Direct and within the marketplace, those that have embraced this challenge of public cloud and pushing the public cloud mantra to customers have gained a competitive advantage already in crowded markets. So, the SaaS marketplace is due to grow to nearly 100 billion by the end of this year, 21% growth. And again, the key thing here is with regards to SaaS ISVs. If you've got a SaaS offering, then the revenue valuation is 11.2 times, which is obviously a significant ratio. And then 70% of ISVs will be updating pricing and licensing in the next 2 years. So getting that recurring revenue for a start. Some of you guys already might have the benefits of recurring revenue, but those are the key things that people are going to be looking at in the future. And it's really important that you're on that journey to make sure that you stay competitive.